okay, what is it that, how are we going to ask? What are we going to ask? Are we going to go for big donors? Are we going to go for little individuals? So I think we're on the same page. It's just a matter of how we do that. So
Well, we are on the same page, I think, and we were in the summer, but I don't see any progress since then.
yeah. Well, and like I said, I've got staff coming in. I mean, I'm the one that's putting this stuff on Facebook, so I agree, and I think our principals, and I don't want to speak for them, but I think everybody would agree, and I think that it comes to a matter of who's going to do this job, and so we have to decide to focus on strategies.
I've kind of got a comment within here, and this is directly related to what we're talking about here, but it's also related to a number of issues, ongoing issues that we've seen. Based on the progress of the school system and the number of things that are going on, a number of changes, a number of procedural things and major projects, I think we're really short-staffed in the area that we need to look at a project management person who not only, see, exactly what Mr. Stevenson just said is like, we have an idea. It's a great idea. We all agree on it. But out there, the plates are so full, and there's 20 different projects, and they can't get to all the projects. So what happens is we come before in these meetings, and it feels like there's incompetence, but there is actions being taken across the board, and there's priorities, and then there's things that come into the system that's not part of what we're planning to do, that takes the resources of time, and then when we get to these meetings, we don't have stuff done because of other issues that come up. I do believe we need to investigate and look at, and going forward, to have a staff position that is basically, for whatever name you decide to make it, a project manager that can not only identify the projects, prioritize the projects, be able to give us reports on the progress of the projects, and then also be in charge of getting the steps, analyzing the steps that need to be done, and following it through. Because we're coming up with great ideas, but you can't do everything.
Then I agree.
And
that
so
the
it's not
plates are
specifically
full.
to this, and I agree with you.
Right.
We've got some people in there,
Then-
but if we had the project manager, they can talk to the athletic director, okay, what are we gonna do on this?
Then I
What's our
want-
timelines, and what can they do?
We need to continue moving forward. We need to make progress. So if that's where we are, if everybody's plate's so full, no one can do another thing, then we need a recommendation for you, Mr. Stevenson. I need a person. I need to put it, and we shouldn't wait only until June every year to make
Right.
a change, because we're losing a whole year. I mean,
Yeah.
if we can add
I agree with
somebody
you.
now,
Yep.
because here we are midway through, and we've made no progress since last summer, or even before that.
And then the problem with some of these issues is we're not only not addressing it now and having it done now, but we're losing resources, losing opportunity, and it creates
There's
a
a feeling-
false image of things not getting done. And I don't like that image
Go ahead,
because
Mr.
I know the reality that is being done.
I appreciate that, and I can tell you that we have people working very hard. What I can tell you, and I'm really excited about this, as we have moved forward with the operations manager, we have a position that's been budgeted. I did interviews just, sorry, I don't think it was yesterday or the day before, I don't forget my days. I've started the round of interviews, so that was something that I was just trying to keep a little bit, because we're in the interview process and this is a public forum of who we've interviewed and things like that. But we are moving forward because I absolutely agree with you. And we are, I hear you, and I would love, it becomes problematic for me because, boy, I would love to come up with a list of like, here's the things. I end up spending my time high level, and then I want to dig down and deep, and I'm with you. Even the concerns about the field and everything, I absolutely agree. And I mean, my frustration is just as yours. So I've moved forward on that position. I've held it, and part of the reason I held it this long, and I agree with not waiting since June, is that I've actually thought about saving money. To be quite frank,
But we're losing money by trying to save money.
Well,
Yeah.
It's penny wise and dollar foolish is the big
Right.
picture. And I appreciate the concern, and we've got the budget on one side, we're trying to balance, but sometimes we have to go outside of what appears to be upfront the right decision to do.
I appreciate it, and I love hearing the direction, and it sounds like we're on the same
And
page. And it's
one
moving
of the
forward.
things you can help me with my frustration is you're good at sending us emails on, we did the, this club did this, and a lot of the cheerleading stuff, which is nice and good, but I'm not a nice and feel-good kind of guy. And then I apologize, but I want to see progress. So I like to see the nuts and bolts of what's happening. Hey, I'm thinking about bringing the operations back, because that's what I want. I want to see the progress, and I understand it's not overnight solutions that are going to happen.
Right. No, you're
But
being very
to me,
reasonable.
all I get is, hey, we had an event, a car wash or a bike thing, and those are nice. I understand, but It's not the
Absolutely
kind-
hearing, and I like the direction, and I'm glad that this is actually out in public too, so people hear, because that's been a position that I thought all along we should have and continue with, so good. Thank you so much.
I'd want to go with the marine approach. Let's take that hill. You know, we got issues here that we got to take on, so we got to analyze them. What resources do we need to accomplish the goal and go do it?
I think we're good now. Thank you, Mr. Hopper. Oasis Middle School.
Good morning. Happy New Year to everybody out there. Keith Graham, principal at Oasis Middle School. Very proud to say that, bringing up first, that our Lady Iguanas volleyball team have become district champs. The girls did a fantastic job, had a great season. Coaches and parents were fantastic all year long, so thank everybody, and thank Coach Joe Carson. He's the assistant athletic director at the middle school. He's doing a fantastic job setting things up and getting the venues all set. So again, congratulations to those guys. Also want to thank Ms. Myers and the Treblemakers, well, not the Troublemakers, but the Treblemakers chorus group. They did a performance at the Southwest Regional Airport prior to break, and hopefully they did enjoy themselves. I went out and caught a little bit of their performance, and I hope all the travelers got to enjoy a little bit of that as well. And again, thank to Ms. Myers and all of the fantastic performers and volunteers to help put on the first successful performing Winter Arts Festival. It was a very fantastic first. So I do hope that continues, and we'll make sure that does. It was very good. People stayed very late getting things put away, but Ms. Myers did a great job, and all the parent volunteers as well. We are having our informational parental open house tomorrow evening, Friday evening. Sorry, I don't know what date today is. Friday evening from 6 to 8 in the cafeteria. I want to thank all the 5th grade teachers for getting those flyers and newsletters out to all of their parents for us and making sure that they're getting that information. Had a lot of positive feedback so far, and I think it's going to we're going to have a full house. Related to that, we brought in 3 new students this week. So that's a good thing, and we're continuing to bring as many students as we can. We have a bunch. Actually, I just talked to Miss Spencer this morning, and she has some other ones on board. So we are getting things processed and hopefully getting things better with the enrollment. Coming up, we have our STEM tour team that's heading out to FGCU on the 28th. They'll be taking part in their Water Tower Challenge. Those groups are to construct a water tower that is to get water from ground level up into the tower, support the amount of water, and then get it back out to where it is needed. So they have to design all of that and come up with the best practice for that. So I wish them the best of luck as well. If you go out there to see them again, it's on the 28th at FGCU. Also want to welcome a new staff member, Mrs. Edith Delaveau. She is taking over our technology position, and she is off and sprinting. Her first day was 3 days ago, so she is taking it day by day and doing very well. She's staying up late at nights and getting things caught up and read up on all the things that she needs to be doing as far as welcoming to the new school and new district. So she's doing a fantastic job. I've heard great positives so far. Wish her the best of luck. She and I also attended, and I know that was a concern with some parents regarding the TSA group. We attended the meeting last night after school, and it was fantastic. Give a lot of great credit to those kids sticking with it, and they are looking to reevaluate and reassess their projects and needs and what they're going to need for their upcoming trip in March. I talked to a couple of the parents there as well who have been just sort of overseeing things as the position was getting filled. But Miss Delaveau got her feet wet, and she introduced herself to the kids, and she was pretty excited to see what was going on, and the kids took over and did great. So I got a lot of information in regards to finances and what things we're doing. So they are still looking to go to that competition in March. I talked to the club president and a couple other members that they have, and they have their ducks lined up. They are fantastic kids. So we're going to continue to wrap things up. There's some other information I need to get from them, and they need to get from the parents, so we'll get things wrapped up as tightly as we can and hopefully get them off and running to their trip in March. We too are getting ready for the big rally raffle. Our tickets are going to be delivered here shortly. I have one word that we'll give you the hoverboards, is all I'm going to say with those. We too are getting ready for testing coming up and getting things prepped. Miss Amy Picciolo is our testing coordinator this year, and she's been attending district trainings and whatnot and getting on board with everything that she needs to do and informing teachers of all the upcoming changes and things. So again, we don't promote it as well. We just kind of take it day by day, and the kids do historically fantastic. So that's all I have.
Okay. Looks like no one has any comment. Thank you. And last, we have Oasis High School.
Right. Good morning. I have just a few things to share. I did want to at least show you, and I can pass it around as well, an article that was in the newspaper about our students who participated in the project-based learning activity that involved the Habitat for Humanity. And they worked on multiple houses that day, did some painting, but also the students, as part of the culminating piece of their project in the classroom, they had to make a presentation, and they invited governing board members, and I know some of you all were able to attend. We also had one of the Lee County board members there as well, so it was very encouraging for our students to be able to share what it was that they accomplished in about a 4 to 5 week time period in their class. And that particular project allowed them some flexibility from the administrative end to address the standards of curriculum that they would have been covering anyway through the reading of a book in an application to doing some work outside. And so they had to do the legwork on creating their curriculum and what it was going to look like and how they were going to meet the reading standards and writing standards and still pull this project off by integrating those standards into the project. And I have to tell you, I even said it to the students. Ms. Sanford and I were having some conversation in the front office, and she was a little hesitant about what's this going to look like, how's it going to work, and I even made the comment to her, no worries, because I'm not sure they have enough motivation to really pull this together in the time frame that they have, and they very much proved me wrong. They got after it the next week and really started to pull things together, and it's those moments that you see as an administrator that really make you smile, because there are students that are in that class that really want to plug in and do the work, and you could see them, I mean, just shining through this process as it happened. So very proud of them. Mr. Ream was the teacher of that class. He was very willing to think outside the box and very willing to get out of his comfort zone, so to speak, and really almost take it day by day and collaborate to make that happen. So again, if you see Mr. Ream and those students, they were pretty fantastic. It was an incredible process to watch for them in that classroom. So, and that was an English class that occurred in. So, just neat to see some of the things that we've really worked on come to fruition and see students benefit as a result of that.
Ms. Treese, can I interrupt you for 1 second? I'm sorry,
Sure.
because I don't know if she's going to go there or not, but this is important, and I want to really kind of speak to the community here versus everybody else, because I know you probably won't say this, but you know, there's been a lot of allegations about what's happening with the staff and how they're feeling at the high school. And I can tell you, as an administrator for many, many years, and as also sometimes not having the soft side, when I see your full entire staff, and there was 25 teachers plus there at the event, the students presented, but when I see tears in the room of administrators and educators, and I see a 7-foot-tall Mr. Ream with tears in his eyes as the students are saying things, and as the staff, and I always say if the staff cries together in a positive way, it's a good thing. They were a team that I had not seen, and I can tell you in many years of doing this in different places, I wished I had those moments. I was living vicariously through Ms. Treese at that moment, thinking, gosh, I wish I was the principal, because that's really cool. So I would like the community to know that we have a group of teachers there surrounded by students, and the words of the students to the teachers were so inspiring that even, and I won't speak for other people, but even other members of the community that were there even said, oh my gosh, I hadn't seen something like this in a long time. So again, speaking through the board, but to the community, I want you to know that whatever is being said, I certainly didn't see any nervous staff. I certainly didn't see any staff that were worried about their positions or anything like that. What I saw is a bunch of people, adults, hugging, crying, and thanking themselves for a good job well done. And I just wanted to interrupt Ms. Treese, because I know Ms. Treese wouldn't say that. She's too kind to do that as well. But it's part of the leadership, and it stems from her being there and down. And so, like I said, I sat by her and tried to take some of that glow, and it's none of my responsibility, nothing that I did to do there, but I certainly enjoyed that moment. So I just wanted to thank you. That's a moment that as an educator, you just certainly don't forget those very often. And so it was very touching. So thank you, and I'm sorry to interrupt.
No, thank you. I was also going to thank Mr. Prowitz as well, not only for the evaluation component of the work that he has done, but just as we have launched Schoology in our school as well, when quirks come up, he works with Mr. Cole and tries to also work with our teachers on how to make it work for them in the classroom. And he's kind of gone above and beyond on some of those requests for me and supporting the staff as well. So again, someone who's just really plugged into the work and very committed to the students of the school and the staff as well. Also, Mr. Butterfield, Andy Butterfield, was a new hire this year in our social studies department, and I wanted to share this just because these are the type of people that we've been able to recruit into our school, and he's just a neat gentleman if you have the opportunity to interact with him. But he was invited, this is his 9th year, I believe he told me, in a row, for being invited to score the AP exams out in Salt Lake City, Utah this summer. So of course we said, yes, go do those. We want you doing that work so that you can bring back the knowledge that you're learning from scoring and the training to serve our students as well, because we also offer those AP classes. The DonorsChoose.org was certainly, it was a very nice email to get in the inbox to see that 3 of our projects had been fully funded. We obviously are working very hard to get the students the one-to-one devices that they need for that 24-hour anytime learning. And we had 3 teachers that had projects up that were not fully funded yet. And Google did swoop in and funded all 3 of those. So we have 21 Chromebook devices that should be delivered anytime to the school, and we'll get those set up and out into students' hands. So that's a pretty big deal at the high school level. It's hard sometimes to get monies at the high school level with the curriculum that we're delivering. So that was a nice one to receive. The STEM teams, also to let you know, this was a good piece of information that was encouraging. We only had 1 opening from the beginning of school year to this point. So again, just to reiterate, the ability to keep those folks it seems to be present. And we did fill that 1 position. That was our engineering position. That opening happened about 6 or 7 weeks ago. And we were able to fill that position with Lori McLean into the engineering classroom. And within just a few days, she has been working with our TSA students and STEM students. And we had initially had 2 STEM teams, and she has informed me that she's had enough interest in the last few days that we're going to have to add a 3rd STEM team on the STEM tour. So it's encouraging to see that when you get the right folks in the right places, that students tend to migrate there and really make the program take off. And I fully believe that Ms. McLean will do that. The open house we held last night for our 8th graders coming in. Enrollment, I will share, is a little tricky at the high school level. Anybody that comes in, we really are critically looking at, can we get a schedule? But at the high school level, it is a little bit more difficult to match up classes, depending on where they're coming from, depending on lots of factors in there. But if we can get them in, then we are getting them in. But I do feel really good about the open house from last night. We had a packed house. I didn't count, but we had more this year than we had last year. We could have pulled the second set of bleachers out and probably filled it halfway with the people that were standing. It was just too late in the presentation when that really happened. But it was great. Lots of positive conversations, lots of opportunities for the parents to interact with the teachers. I give a huge kudos to our teachers. Their day started yesterday before 6:45, but officially at 6:45 in the building, and they walked out last night at 8 o'clock. So it was a very long day, and they're very committed to the work, and it was exciting to see folks interacting with parents that are excited about what's happening in the school as much as Ms. Sanford and I are. So I think we all left feeling pretty good last night. I also want to share that I know for sure these, and I've only talked to a few people who met with students in other schools, but we had students there from Trafalgar, Diplomat, Challenger, a couple sophomores, Bishop Verot, North Fort Myers, and Lehigh, all students that had heard about the open house. Some of them already enrolled in a high school, but they wanted to see our facility, and I talked to 2 of those specifically as well. So it was encouraging. It was definitely a night of encouragement. Our PTSO served snacks, just handed out snacks, which doesn't seem like a big deal, but that's really something that we've been working to get parent involvement at the high school. So they had pizza and Doritos and chips, and they were just handing those out to families as they came in just because of getting off work and getting there. I thought it was a really nice gesture for them as well. So I'd like to thank Mr. Hess and his group of parents that have been really working hard to support our school this year. Most of our work right now is focused on grades and midterms, the 2 weeks really before the end. That's what our focus is. That's what we do, especially that last week and a half. Lots of panicked students in many cases as the reality of midterms is setting in and that grades are ending, and that really is the final days. And so we spend most of our time counseling and working with students. The FSA reading scores came in yesterday, and I will report more specifically on those in terms of data next month, but we're going to review with the teachers. I will say that we were the highest performing in the district for the 11th grade retakes. And so those are students who maybe, for whatever reason, didn't take the test previously. They maybe moved in from a different state. There are lots of different reasons. Or they took it and did not meet the benchmark that's required for graduation. They retook those, and it's not easy for a student to walk into those situations. That's when you've got graduation hanging over your performance, those can tend to be very stressful. So I want to give kudos to those students as well. They've worked really, really hard in preparation for that exam, and they performed well. So we want to continue to support them and just give them a shout out. And Miss George as well. She is our reading teacher who has been working with those specific students, and she's put in a lot of time to determine how to meet their needs individually. Testing will pick up very soon. We're getting to that season where end of course and ACE exams are going to be prevalent on the calendar almost daily. But again, the devices we're hoping will help with some of the management of the logistics of less time for testing. But it still is going to be, it's just a lot, no matter how you lay it out. It's a lot of tests and a lot of different students and involves a lot of different people each day. So we're going to try to, do the best that we can to keep it as minimal as possible. But again, you're going to start hearing some of that conversation that it's assessment time, and it is. I will give some recognition because I think it's very well deserved to our teaching staff. So I am going to brag on them. But we did have a new member join us, and I wanted to share. I thought it was a pretty profound comment that she shared with me specifically. She said, I walked in the door, and as soon as I did, people were there to help me with everything that came up and guiding me to where I needed to go to get the support. And that is a much, much different message that was echoed this year than it was this time last year. And, it's hard to capture what the culture feels like when you're not in the building, but I can tell you, I've shared with you before, it's a much different place. And it was very encouraging to hear that from a perspective coming in to say, they're greeting me, I'm eating in the teacher's lounge, there wasn't a negative comment made. And I can tell you that's not what was being said to myself and the administrative team last year. So I'm very encouraged this time, this year, about what is happening at Oasis High School. Not to say that we don't have strides to go. Excellence is a continuous, improvement pattern. But we're in a place where we're looking at how can we improve and what does that need to look like and what steps can we take to be better than we were yesterday, tomorrow. So. All right.
Mr. Winstead?
Yes. As you're fully aware, high schools officially and unofficially start to be known by certain programs and approaches. Mm-hmm. And as you and I have discussed in the past, there's a trend of desire that curriculums continue to work towards the application of reality. Mm-hmm. Okay? A break from just a traditional educational system that teaches what we've always taught to one that is focusing on what's now and going before us, and the students receiving real-time, real-life knowledge about the careers and directions and opportunities ahead. I want to say I appreciate so much your focus in that, in this program that you just completed addresses that type of situation in addition to the mentoring programs that you've been doing. What I would like to ask is, I know we're going in that direction and I'm very excited about it internally. How do we start to communicate that externally so that the high school itself can start to benefit from this educational direction? Because for all of education, I would love it for Lee County, Florida, and the country to start to move in that direction, because that is the most important thing, not only for our students, but the future of our nation. So, I don't know that there's a number of high schools that have unique programs that are great. It might be in arts, and it may, these segregated areas in and of themselves, which are great. But this in itself is something I think should be known, should be encouraged, something continue to develop within our system, because it is so much needed and it's been so successful. And the tears of joy are because, it's the real application of learning and progress and making a difference, as opposed to a theoretical test preparation. On one side, we have theoretical test preparation, and then we have the application and delivery of real knowledge, education, and experience that can be applied. So as we go forward, I would love to see some type of plan to communicate this approach. And I hate to just package it, but I would like to see it packaged in a way that it can be communicated community-wide, so that we can take advantage internally and externally and have the community understand that.
Yes, sir.
So that's what I would like to see us go in terms of that, because it is such an awesome approach to education.
Yes, I would tend to agree. That's where it's headed, and you have to be able to really show that you're meeting students' needs and that it's meaningful education. Students can get an education on Florida Virtual and not ever come in a building, so there has to be some appeal for what is it that we're doing inside the building that students want to come and participate in. And we have great things going, so it's easy to tweak and make those steps happen.
And so I guess what I'm saying is, I'm not seeing that happen collectively across the board. I am seeing it happen here. Mm-hmm. So, I think we need a mechanism to communicate that we are doing this here. Mm-hmm. Because I don't know that we do we have a way that we're doing that already that I've missed? Or, because I really think that is a key exception within the community, and we need to do that.
The media that she said, everything that we've been doing, we've been sending out to media, for one. Also, Shannon has working with Miss Catherine Kanaki, who is doing these kind of things that you're talking about in terms of meeting with community leaders and things like that to establish these connections for our kids to get out and do these service learning projects. But you're absolutely right in terms of a full package. I know one of the things that Ms. Treese and I have talked about on occasion is, like a PR video, if you will.
Well, yeah, because think of people know what a STEM program is. Mm-hmm. Okay, we need a flag.
Right.
We're doing these great things, but they're not under a flag. They're not identifiable as a program, and that does not change the applicability or the benefit of them. But what it does make it hard to do is promote it. So we kind of need a flag. We need something that we can say, this program we're doing, and this is why we're doing it, and this is what's happening related to it. It's hard to cheerlead for something. It's like a no-name situation, which is great in the application there. But we have an open house, but we can say, hey, we're doing unique things here.
You're familiar with the city of Cape Coral, where they come through and they do different components of the city's programs. They come and spend one day with city council members. They go, the Citizens Academy is the name of that group. Mm-hmm. They come, and I think what we should do, because when the Citizens Academy comes, these are citizens that don't know much about our school system. We give them a little hour and a half, 2 hour, kind of just kind of what you're talking about. And when they hear, it's the same thing. So we've kind of talked about replicating that program, maybe in video format or in some sort of way to get that out to the press.
Okay, so I'm looking at two different things. There's how do we promote it, but what is it?
Right.
We need to identify it. then the videos, the citizens academies, the advertising, the community outreach that explains it, those are all fantastic to support it, but we have to have an it. Sure. We have to name it. We have to describe it in a way that we can, so people, even when they reference it, they'll know what it is.
Great idea.
I think it for Oasis High School previously was ACE. Everybody referred to it as the ACE school, and it is an ACE school. We're still an ACE school, but there are 5 other ACE schools as well that
Right.
do a lot of other great things. So the competitive edge that they had in the first, 3 to 4 years of the school being built and being able to promote it, it was self-promoting.
Right.
Well, the competition is now, I mean, there are other schools that students can go to, so we've really had that conversation, a lot of depth around what is it that we can do, because we are small, because we don't have 25 steps to make a change. If we see something isn't working, we have the ability within the building to make those changes and adjustments, even in scheduling and, whatever the programs need to look like. But I think part of that is the process that we were starting last year of defining and kind of redefining who are we.
Yes.
Because ACE isn't the miracle cure for our enrollment
Yeah,
anymore.
ACE is an ace in the corner. I mean, it's a great program
is.
to have, and there's a lot of people who are going to be focused on that. But again, you have on the far, far extreme out there, private schools that are 100% totally open to whatever curriculum the child, even from elementary school on up, that it kind of designs their own learning system and how they learn, which is pretty extreme. But within the confines of our system, and our system within the charter system and within Lee County, there's not, having these programs that are designed where the kids get to actually experience and learn in a real-time, real environment is something that we should as a nation be going towards, but we are doing it here. So I think somehow we need to identify that as, another thing, another trophy in the trophy case. There's ACE, but we need to identify this so that we can communicate it in a way. And then we can use all the other programs that Mr. Stevens is saying, how to promote it. But again, we need to identify it to promote it.
Absolutely, I agree.
Great.
Thank
Working
you.
on that.
Okay, I think we're good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next up is item 12, unfinished business. First, we have A, strategic plan.
I would be remiss because I don't know at the very end if I'm going to have another chance to talk or not. So I wanted to mention, as everybody knows here, that this is, and I was off by one meeting. I thought Mr. Buzztree would be with us on our February meeting as well. But Mr. Buzztree's last official meeting is today with us. We are going to provide him a plaque like we do everybody. And had I known, and I apologize, and it may have been passed to me, but I misunderstood. I thought it was in February. You were here well before I got here. You've been very helpful and very responsive when we need things. So I just want to appreciate you for all the time that you've done with the charter schools. I know we have a probably special place in your heart because you've been here for so long. But I just wanted to thank you, and I'm sure there'll be some comments at the end. But I just wanted to make sure to get that in there. So thank you for your service to the school system, and we will follow up with the plaques as I typically do. So I apologize for not having today. I also wanted to touch quickly on the Donors Choose and just go back to the concept, and you're going to hear later about the Google Chromebooks. When Ms. Treese or Mr. Hopper say, we got only 2 or we got 21, keep in mind those things are around $300 depending on what kind of servicing and things you get with them. So a 21 Google Chromebooks is $6,300 of monies that we are not having to expend. 2 of them is $600 approximately, a little less here or there. But so those are big things that we're getting. So I just wanted you to know that's actual dollars that are now saved us from having to spend. And the strategic plan, I wanted to let you know that I'm energized in the Krista McCullough commitment to make a plan there. So I think it was right before the break I met with Ms. Collins. We had a conversation about this. This is one that I don't intend on letting go. I've met yesterday with Mr. Serlag, the city manager, based on something else, and this was also brought up in the conversation, or I'm sorry, it was the day before, was also brought up in the conversation about how we need to proceed and move forward. My next steps are to get engineers in to essentially look at the what our options might be in terms of existing structure. We have an idea, and I'll pass on to you about how many classrooms we may be looking at. and we are going to do a numbers and analysis and revenue analysis and expense analysis on all that. But first, I need to know what our options exist in terms of the facilities. So Mr. Serlag said that that would be a meeting that he would organize with city personnel, because then we're dealing with permitting, we're dealing with all the other issues that we'll need. So I just want the board to know in assurance that that is my driver right now, and I've told Ms. Collins that we have no time to wait anymore. I mean, we can say it's down the road, but we can't kick the can down the road anymore. So something will happen on that, and I'll keep you in loop all the way. But we've, since our last meeting, have already had 2 meetings based on just Krista McAuliffe. We are going to a 3-year budget, which also goes back to our strategic plan. So we're looking at a 3-year budget that will assist us in starting to uncover those things that we need to be looking at in terms of a long-term strategic plan. In terms of working with the security component of our strategic plan, and I left it on my desk, but you can see it there. I should hold it up for public. But we are now, as of yesterday, our principals were trained, our APs principals, and again, for security reasons, don't want to talk about how many we have or what we have, but we have an ability to communicate throughout our whole 4 campuses. We can talk internally. We're also able to call directly to a person so that can't be heard over the radio, only one-to-one communication, if you will. So those are things that for the last 2 years we've been working to get there, and we're there now. So that's one component that I'm very happy to have, and the administrators in our meeting yesterday know, and we've all committed, I have as well, to actually carry the radio around, so there won't be any issue. So when we talk about security planning, and again, I in this forum don't want to talk too much about it, but I feel much better as a system of where we are now as of even yesterday. So that was a big, what I believe, step forward. Our next step with the strategic plan is starting next week. I'm going to be visiting classrooms, and I've talked to the principals and administrators about that. But on those, I'm going to be talking to the people that worked on those individual strategic plan components, because remember, this year we divided them out. So we're going to start talking about some timelines and what they can accomplish within that. So those meetings will start next week in terms of saying, if we look at 1A or 1B or 2B or whatever it might be, we're going to be assigning those within our group, and it may be the same people that worked on those. It may be those people and others. It may be that they moved to something else to get things done. But what I anticipate bringing back to you in February is a list from the strategic plan that says, this is exactly almost prioritized, but this is what each group is doing. So go back to where we were with the strategic plan and say, these are the 8 areas that are going to be done and what dates they'll be done. So we've done some things. The radios are a big one. We started that process a couple of months ago once we had the strategic plan meeting. And so we're continuing to work forward. There's a lot in the plan. So again, having another person to assist the operations manager will assist me in changing the focus to working on the strategic plan, which does encompass things like the field, which does encompass the technology, the security, and all those things that we vitally need to be working on. We also have the one-to-one scenario. So again, when Danielle will be talking about that in a bit, I want you to consider that we found a great, I think, opportunity there, and I want to give the administrators the credit for that in terms of the leasing program versus a buyout, and so you'll get some of that anyway. But so for strategic plan, we'll be moving on that, and by February, so the next board meeting, I'll provide you with a list of literally who's doing what and how. You already kind of have that on there, but as you see, there's so much that if I said we're going to accomplish all of that in 2 months or something, that's not going to be realistic. So I'm going to give you a realistic breakdown after we meet with the groups and talk to them about who can do what and how they can get it done. Are there any questions in relation to the strategic plan?
I think you're good. You can go ahead to Neola.
All right. Neola, the only issue with Neola right now that I wanted to let you know is I know that there's going to be some further review with the legal department in terms of our Neola procedures that are there, in terms of just assessing and making sure that those all meet where we need to be. But I am meeting with Tom, the Neola advisors, in the end of next week to go again back to the process of working on procedures. So as you all know, that's the area that we need to continue to work on. And so that's what I'll be doing. So the update is just that, again, as I promised before, I'm not stopping. We didn't just do the policies and then we're dropping it and being done. It's going to continue to do and continue to do. We don't have any new updates, which is a good thing. So in terms of the updates and legislatively, we don't have anything there from him. And I'll just continue to meet and work with him. It is time consuming. And so that's again, when we talk about prioritization, I could spend the next 3 months probably just on that job alone. So I'm just doing the best that I can. And again, it's hard to call people out of buildings to help me. I don't have a lot of people to pull. If I pull an administrator, then I'm leaving the building with one administrator, and they've got lots to do as well. So, but I just want my promise to you is I would continue, and I have continued since we did those to work on that, and it won't be forgotten.
I do have a question about Neola. Well, it might not be about Neola. If we were to request, or if I were to request, something be added to our policies or procedures about how we deal with a injunction or a court order, would that be a policy for Neola, or would that be a procedure that would be determined at the, like a lower level?
It depends on what it is. It could fall into the realm of policy. It could change and alter the way that we do what we do, but most of that is related to statute, and I'm not a lawyer, so I want to let them. But most of those policies that we have are statutory in nature, and they're given to us pretty much through the Neola in terms of their experience, et cetera. So if it wouldn't impact a legal portion, which I would defer to the lawyers, if it's just a procedural, something that we do, in other words, in response to what it is that I do, step A, B, C, then that would be just simply something, in my understanding, that we would bring here. I would make the recommendation, and we would, as a group, update our Neola policy. But I would defer to the lawyers on that specific kind of context.
Okay, I think it might be a good idea to take a look at that. I know we've only had one situation like that so far, but as we grow, I'm sure we'll have situations like that in the future. And I think it'd be good to have in writing so that everybody is on the same page and knows what to expect.
Absolutely, very good, yeah.
So should we set that as an agenda item, or should we just ask Mr. Stevenson, do you want to come back? Or I know we can't ask Mr. Bustre to do that. Maybe we can ask Ms. Menendez to take a look at putting something in writing.
Yes,
Okay. We can talk offline.
yes, absolutely, very good.
And that's it. Does anyone else have any other questions about Neola?
It's a living document, so just keep that in mind. We're going to keep
Absolutely.
it. So, yeah.
Thank you. Okay, moving on to new business. A is discussion of the Oasis High School educational science trip to Costa Rica.
Yes, so I'm going to share with you what I have. Mr. Patrick is actually at an ACE training today, and Ms. Totoro was unable to be here because of a family issue. So she sent me just a little bit. I know a little bit about it, but basically they're wanting to pursue a trip to Costa Rica for the students. It would likely be a group of about 8 to 16 students, and it would be through a conservation expedition. They would be traveling with Smithsonian Student Adventure Group. This company supplies the groups with their own travel guide who stays with the group the entire time. They also supply a personal representative who sets the information up on the website and will assist families with travel details. While in Costa Rica, students will assist researchers with collecting data on sea turtles, sloths, and other wildlife, help clean up beaches, and learn about the various ecosystems in the Costa Rican area, meet with local farmers, and hike in the rainforest. It would be in June. It would be a summer trip. It would be certainly students who are interested in going. The cost is approximately $3,400. This would include airfare, meals, and lodging. And again, it would be a student who would have a genuine interest in the environment and are able to meet the requirements of the paperwork for the trip. So I think they were just wanting to put that out there. I know that I had presented a trip from Haiti earlier this year, and we just wanted to be transparent before they go through the process of getting lots and lots of details, if that's really something that would be acceptable, because again, it's an out-of-country, obviously, trip. So it's a trip that I would like to go on.
Yeah, I'll go. Mr. Bestry.
My only concern is that we distinguish and differentiate to make sure that this is really not a school trip. This is a private endeavor. I take it, it's wholly private endeavor. I mean, students are free to volunteer to sign up or not sign up, and there's no penalties if they don't sign up, because obviously you get into legal liability issues once it's a school sponsored trip as opposed to a private endeavor. And that would be my only concern.
This would be a school trip. Students aren't mandated. It would be no different than students going to China as they did in the middle school, or our students last summer went to a foreign country. I can't actually remember where they went, but it would be the same. It would be the same type of trip.
Is it a tour company that's doing
It is. Mm-hmm.
That's the piece, right?
Do the
Where it's a
students
tour
have
company.
Insurance
and everything to cover them?
They do. Mm-hmm. It's all through the company.
It's a tour company that does specializes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. What was the name? Smithsonian Student Adventure Group.
Okay, has anyone checked on this group to see how long they've been in sort of, in business and, any complaints against them or anything?
I haven't looked details on how long they were. I did look at their website. It was pretty comprehensive on questions and answers, but I can dig into it a little deeper.
When do you anticipate this coming forward for actual approval? Right now, you're just kind of floating the idea, right?
We
Well,
are. It would probably officially come forward next month. We still had some legwork that we knew we needed to do. If, in fact, that was something that we could take a look at, then I think everyone's willing to put in the time to do that. But if it was a no-go, then it was sort of a moot point.
Okay.
Is there any school funds involved?
There would be no school funds involved. Students would be fundraising, I'm sure, through the school but that would go into their accounts. They have we have an environmental club account, so that's their funds. They do with it as they so choose.
Is that good?
That's it.
Okay,
All right.
thank you.
Thanks.
Next up is 13B. I requested this to be added. It's discussion of the establishment of an independent investigative body or an ombudsman, if I'm pronouncing that word correctly. It seems like we're coming up on several different parents, students, even teachers who have gone through the chain of command and they still feel like they're not completely satisfied. They feel like whether they're right or wrong, people are biased and things are being swept under the rug. I disagree with that, but that's the impression I'm left with by a few people. And I feel like there would be more faith and trust in the system if we had an independent person or body, like a board committee, to investigate and fact find and look into claims that are not resolved after the proper chain of command is followed. So my thought was this type of person or body would be helpful. And I haven't done too much research. I know some school systems have an ombudsman, some will just outsource and pay an outside person to investigate claims. I don't know about payment. We were just talking about our budget and we're short on enrollment. So I don't know exactly how we would do this, but I just wanted to see if anyone else felt the same way, or what are your thoughts? We have several lights. We've got Mr. Winstead first.
My thoughts are, I guess, first, that in many situations like this, you'll find that regardless of the research that's done and the conclusions that are reached, people are not going to, if it doesn't come out the way they want it to be, they're not happy with it. And they want to push it as far as it can be pushed. So allowing another option in there, it just gives another approach that can be reviewed. I believe that when the situation comes, before us in a decision, that is an independent body that is evaluating it. With that being said, I do agree that maybe we should look at, something like this and investigate that further, because, maybe that would be a way that, issues could be, finally, resolved. I guess what I'd be concerned about is setting up another administrative process that, we're investing resources and time that we may have already covered efficiently. But with that being said, I'm open to looking at what a solution like that might entail.
Just real quick, I just want to touch on that. You said we shouldn't. It's not our job as a board to investigate these issues. It's just not in our job description. It's not that I don't want to. It's just not part of what we're supposed to do. We make very high-level decisions, and it's not the city council's job either. And I think that's the impression people have, and that's farthest from the truth. I mean, I remember
true.
when the system was created, it was to be completely separate.
Right.
Council appoints board members, and that's essentially
That's it.
That's it. So council can't be bogged down with these issues either. So that's why I feel
True,
like
that's a
another.
good point. That's a
Okay.
very good point.
And you're right, people will be unhappy if a decision is made that's not in their favor, but at least then, at this point, it would be the end, and that would be it. So, Mr. Fisher, you're next.
Thank you. I think one of the issues is, and you talked about chain of command, is probably in some of the most recent instances, that probably some of the chain of command might not have been clear enough and might have been jumped around a little bit. I think that's probably some of it. A lot of it probably could have been handled at different levels and was taken in many different directions. I think that's one of the issues I have, at least. I could see maybe, reinforcing or kind of clearing up certain chains of command, at least maybe to, if it's faculty, students, such things. I'm a little bit, and I agree with Mr. Winstead, I'm a little bit hesitant in adding someone or going forward right now and creating another level of bureaucracy before we go back and make sure that our policies and our direction, everything is clear at the moment. So, I mean, I think we generally understand it, but I think there might be some confusion, as I said, if it's within the students, the teachers, the community, those kind of things. So I'm not saying I'm not totally opposed to it, but I would at least like to look at those portions first, I think.
Fair enough. Mr. Zivkovic?
I think my thoughts fall in line with what's just been said. I'm concerned with adding another one of our problems is today everybody has this customer first mentality of I'm supposed to get my way because you want to make me happy. And unfortunately, that's not how life works. And I'm happy that we are standing up in certain instances and explaining to students, well, you're not always going to be happy. But the process, there are questions on what is the process, who do they go to, what is the chain of command? And I'd like to see that clarified. But I'd like also, in clarifying that, I want to, maybe we can require in our procedures, through our current policies, to have a final report that says, okay, here's the final answer from the superintendent based on this. And I know we've been reluctant in putting things in writing because of the litigious society we live in, but we've got to get over that. We have counsel that we can refer to, and when we do that final report, and this way it's a final, this is what we've decided. And if somebody wants to challenge that after, they'll probably get an attorney, whatever they're going to do, that's fine. But at least that we have a process that's clear. The students and parents know where to go. They start with their teacher, go to the principal, go to the superintendent. That's that. Now, I hope that should be sufficient. In terms of having an outside, the only thought I would have for that is, do we create a board committee, a final review committee for that report? And, that committee is really just going to review what that final report is and determine, okay, this process was carried out properly. It doesn't,
Right, empirical, look at the policies.
Not necessarily
agree
or disagree, but the process
was fair.
Yeah.
Correct. Yeah. So we're not going to second guess the answer. We're just going to make sure that the process, how we got there, was fair. So maybe something like that. So that, because we don't want to give somebody false hope just because there's another level. Oh, I'm going to get my way now because I'm going to go here.
Right.
And that's, that's just going to extend the problem. And now we're 3 months into a situation that was handled in the first month. We're just having to repeat it the next 2 months.
And we could have that very defined in what is the process, so the committee could review the steps. Okay, was this done, this done, this done? Yes, it was done. Okay, we're done.
If we want to go that committee right.
If we- yeah.
Another route. But I would first say, let's put it in writing, this is what it is, and then let's get this, because today, am I correct, we don't have a final report requirement at this point? I mean, we sort of say, and it leaves things somewhat ambiguous, because we have conversations, we don't have things in writing, and then certain parties hear some part of it, not the other part. Well, they said I was right here, but, so that's, having it in writing, on charge 1, here's what we've determined, on charge 2, or whatever.
We would, and just so you know, there is Neola, so I wasn't sure how the direction of the conversation was going. There is Neola policy that talks about the procedures, and I would agree with you, though, the communication of the policy. And so what we've had so far, the reason we haven't had final reports is ultimately what's happened is we've had people go and usurp that policy. So what's happened is, for instance, Lee County is currently doing an investigation. So at this point, it jumps before that final report. So it devoids the final report, in other words, you see, because we already have skipped sections. So I'm with you. I'm just saying, so we need to follow that piece. So I think communicating that piece, what I should do is get that to you all, those sections that talk specifically. And then if we want to have a group committee, added to that as a piece of what you do, absolutely.
But let's back up the procedure. If part of the procedure is, if Lee County is brought into it, that final report is delayed till after Lee County makes a decision, then that should be clarified in the.
I would even like some clarification on what Lee County's role is
Right.
where do they fit in this mix? 'Cause,
Well-
you know, theoretically.
They hold we have a charter with them.
Right, but what is their process in reviewing? What are they looking at, and what is their determination? Because when this came up last year on one instance with an accusation against our dean, it was thrown to Lee County, and there was never, as far as I'm concerned,
That was never thrown to Lee, just so you know, that wasn't Lee County, that was DCF. That was totally
okay,
different, yes,
all
sir,
right,
that
so
was
that was
different.
different.
And
But
this was,
it was outside and it was confidential.
Right, I
So we were
understand.
waiting on something that we
Right.
couldn't discuss anyway, so, you know.
it's a unique situation. There is, I can tell you, because I went with Tom with this, there is step one, you go to the person that's the issue, even it starts from teacher, this is the issue, then you go to the administration of the school, then it's me. There is that process, but I agree, that it's not out clear. Remember, it's new. We just got it. I mean, we literally just agreed to it. It is a working document, as I've said. And then finally, like I said, sometimes, regardless of even if we had that procedure written in now, if somebody, and I'm sure, and I don't want to speak for legal, but I'm saying if somebody kind of usurps or jumps those procedures, it creates a situation where,
Right.
and then it looks like and I want the public to understand, then it looks like maybe we aren't responding or doing, well, the reason we're not is because, again, dual investigations, it creates an issue for us.
If we have our procedure written down, and now with recent cases, we have, okay, the what ifs. So if this happens, our final report is delayed until that body is done. At least then we know where we are, but ultimately we.
Your agreement with Lee County should be that it needs to go through our process before that.
99% of the times with Lee County, they do. In this particular case, for whatever reason, they've taken on this as a piece that they'll look at. Again, this is my recommendation. I hear it's good to hear you all talk about this. I think what I can do is I'll be meeting with Tom, as I told you, next week. I can come up with some ideas. We'll come up with a couple of scenarios of what we think may or may not work if we want to change, kind of an ABC. We'll bring it back in February, so my promise I'll bring it back to you in February. Then you can take a look at it and say, okay, do we want to make these additions, not make these additions? Which way do you want to go? And then that way, and I'll do that with him because remember, Tom does this
Right.
throughout. So we've got an expert in-house on that specific thing. So that's my recommendation. Not that we don't do anything now. If you want to do something, that's fine. I'm just saying that would be an option to come back to the table, bring this back up, and then give you some options based on our expert in-house kind of person that we have.
What I'd like to see with that, at least me personally, is, okay, step one, and it's silly, but we've got to be as clear as we can. Step one is, was there a conversation with the teacher? Okay, the outcome.
Yeah.
Yep, all right, step two.
Absolutely.
Was it escalated to the principal? Was all the information from the teacher given to the principal?
Absolutely.
And then outcome, step three. This way, you can't deny, and then, Mr. Buster, you would love that as an attorney. If it's ultimately again argued, well, here's our process. We checked all the boxes. We're sorry. I understand you don't like it, but it was fair.
And their format in Neola pretty much runs that gamut. I mean, in terms of, and it's been pretty vetted because they use it in multiple tons of different counties. So my answer to you is absolutely, I hear you. I'll go back. I did not review it because I wanted to see where the gist of this conversation went. And then I'll present back if that's okay with you all and, and continue conversation.
We still have more people that are waiting to talk,
No
so.
problem. Yeah, absolutely.
Go ahead, Ms. McMillan.
The only thing, not to drag this on, I agree with everything that's been said regarding, I'm not sure we need the additional body person, but if we go down the route, and I think we should probably research it, just a couple of thoughts. Are we adding an additional layer into the chain of command, which could further complicate it? And if we do that, then we need to be very descriptive of what can go to that person or body, because otherwise, authority of this, of everybody's stripped,
Grades and things like that.
Right, and then if maybe better would be, we would as a board say, okay, now we need this person or this group to look at something, so it would follow the chain of command and it would be an offshoot, but then we'd have to be careful that body or person is perceived as unbiased because they're attached to the group. So I see a lot of just things we need to think about if we do research this. I'm not saying we don't, like everybody else has said, let's look at it, but think about all the things that could complicate it if we do.
Right, that's why I would hesitate even to have a committee of board members, because it wouldn't be perceived as unbiased, and I would
Correct.
probably say that the council should appoint whoever this, if we got that far.
To clarify the committee idea, it was, we as a board would appoint
Appoint,
a committee.
okay.
So it could be.
Right, so it wouldn't be us or
parents,
something from here.
teachers, it could be community
Even
members,
students,
it wouldn't
okay.
necessarily, it couldn't even be a student, right, so that
Right.
you have, if we went there, but it would be, they would be independent. It wouldn't be, one board member would be there to report,
Right.
just like you do the city council, but it would be a varied group. And again, their role, in my idea, would be only to check off, yes, they went through the process, not to question the outcome.
Thank you for clarifying, because I wasn't sure what, okay. And then, did you have any more comment, Mr. McMillan? Okay. Mr. Bustree's been waiting patiently. He probably has a lot to say here.
Just regarding, I think Mr. Winston's question regarding the Lee School District, yes, we have a charter with them. Lee School District really does not interfere with the internal operations of the school, with some minor exceptions. They're interested in our financial condition. If we ever run afoul of do not meet the financial standards, yes, they will let us know, and let us know promptly. They have let us know, for example, of insurance, regarding insurance coverage, things like that. They also